Welcome to Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods. I'm your host, Corey Nathan. This is where we get to speak with the brilliant and creative people who make the greatest coming attractions, movie posters, and digital campaigns of all time. This program is brought to you by 2496 Sound and Music Design, the best sound design and music elements in the business. We're also brought to you by the Golden Trailer Awards and by Soundstripe, the best royalty-free music for video, ads, and film. And today we are continuing our tribute to the great Andy Kuehn. But before we get started, I'm with Greg McClatchy again because we wanted to say a little something about the AJK Foundation. Greg, so good to be with you again, man.
Good to be here. And talking about Andy is, I could talk for a long time about that, so I'll try and keep it short.
Sure thing.
What I wanted to talk about was just a little bit, very briefly, if we could, is the AJK Foundation, the Andrew J. Kuehn Foundation. That's AJK Foundation.org. And this foundation is something that he set up really at UCLA at the archive. And in that, there was a lot of saving films that otherwise would not be saved. Many LGBTQIA plus films, because they're low budget and for various political reasons, been lost over the years. Actually, the first one was in Weimar, Germany in 1925. So Germany was a little bit different then, I guess. But the AJK Foundation paid for the restoration of that and 10 other at-risk rare and films from the LGBTQIA library, so to speak.
That's awesome. And it's ajkfoundation.org?
.org, yes.
That's awesome.
And but they also do, Orange County School of the Arts. They pay for lighting equipment, software, sound equipment, all that kind of stuff for the film program, renovations, field trips, etc. So that's for young filmmakers, and an important, aspect. Columbia College, the same thing. They've made grants for students to finish their final films for their degree in filmmaking. And even though low budget filmmaking is low budget, it still takes money, and a lot of people don't necessarily have it. So that's an important aspect they do. And then along those same lines, the Los Angeles Leadership Academy, which is a charter school near County USC, serving, less advantaged people. And he supported the middle school media club where students are learning media skills, social media, editing, graphic images, et cetera, et cetera. And so then also he was a big supporter of Outfest, which I think is currently kind of on hiatus right now. And so these grants are mostly to young filmmakers to do, to experiment, to grow, and to learn, which is, part of what he did for all of us. Actually, back in the day, we didn't realize it while it was happening, but it was.
Yeah.
Also, independent scholarships are something that that the foundation has supported too in the past by application. So and if you go to the site, you can download the yearly newsletter, which gives all the details that, in depth that we've talked about. It's been going for 20 years now.
Wow.
Andy, I think, has been gone for 22 years. So they've done a lot for a lot of young filmmakers during that period.
That's terrific. A lot of great work being done. ajkfoundation.org. Thanks for sharing some info about it, Greg. It'll be playing in front of the rest of the editions of this special tribute to Andy. So we really appreciate you letting us know about it. And now, on to this week's edition of our ongoing tribute on Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods to the great Andy Kuehn. All right. This is so cool. I am so excited. And this has been so much fun to be joined again by my partner in crime. On the last one, I called him my Top Gun. Benedict Coulter. Good to see you, Benny.
Hi, Corey.
All right. And today, it is a special treat for me because this person has been credited with some of the best taglines and copywriting in the history of our business, some of which she even wrote. And that is Margery Doppelt, Margery, it is so good to see you and so good to meet you. I don't think we've hung out before. How you doing?
I'm fine. It's nice to meet you.
Oh, this is great. This is great. So for folks that don't know, because a lot of things, like I said, some folks don't know how much of an impact you've had on our industry and some of the work that you've done. Would you tell us a little bit about how you first got into the industry and a little bit about your career?
How I first got in? Well, it's kind of funny. I was in film school at UCLA in graduate school, but I was told by intelligent people that basically if you didn't want to teach film or write film criticism, you better get a job because you're going to start at the bottom unless you're like Lana Turner and get discovered at a diner. So I wanted a job, and it so happened that my dad. I'm trying to think of the name of the guy. My dad played golf with a guy whose son-in-law worked at a trailer company. And I was just looking for any job, right? And this guy was named Paul Bijou. So somehow he got me an introduction. Meantime, Paul Bijou owed money to everybody at the company. He there were a lot of stories about him. But at any rate, I got an interview with Dan Davis, who at the time was sort of president of the company with Andy. I sat in an electric chair, as I recall. It was rather terrifying. But I got a job in this special. My first job was in sound effects editing. Sound effects, not even editing. I was a librarian for sound effects.
Okay.
Back in those days, they didn't have a sound effects library. It was all on, mag tape that was piled up like spaghetti in this room. It was a nightmare, like sorting through, you know, doorbells and screams and crowd noises. And I did that for 6 months. It was a terrible job.
Okay.
But one day, Andy was looking for scripts because we were working on a movie. He was working on a movie called Murder by Death. And there was a guy named Ronnie Graham who was going to do the narration for this, I guess, trailer or TV spots or maybe radio. But anyway, he had come and Andy couldn't find the scripts. They had been written by a writer. She was off at Lucy's El Adobe, where everybody went for very long lunches. Who knows when she'd get back, what shape she'd be in when she returned. I happened to know I had seen them on her desk, so I brought them over to him. And he said, great. And he said, what's your name? And that was the first time I met him.
Oh.
And that was the start. Learn my name.
Oh, that's great. So what was your first impression of Andy?
Well, I worked for a guy named Mike, who was the head of Saraband. There was a small division within Kaleidoscope that did radio, which I liked, actually. It was fun. I don't remember my first impression. Just knew he was the big cheese.
Yeah.
And I was glad that at least he asked my name because I disappeared. I mean, he didn't know who I was. There were a lot of people like at my level, we were a lot of little munchkins walking around.
Now you said something interesting, and now I want to get to the juicy some of the juicy stuff of what Kaleidoscope was like. You said we didn't know what kind of shape she'd be in when she got back. So was there? Well, what's going on? Tell us the juicy stuff.
It was. Well, I can tell you this much. One time I got invited to Lucy's. Now I made minimum wage, which was nothing, and I think I brought home $81.85 a week.
Okay.
I got invited to Lucy's and I wasn't going to say no because all the big shots were going and I was pleased to be invited. I was going to be one of the gang.
Yeah.
Well, I had one taco. I'm from New York. I don't know from tacos. This was my first taco. It said it was $1.20. And at the end of the lunch, my share was $10.
Oh, okay.
Which is like 15% of my income for the week.
Yeah.
And I heard Paul Bijou, the same guy, went to a store and went shopping afterwards with the money he made from that lunch. So I didn't go out to lunch with those guys for a little while again. But there was, I don't know, what can I say? It was a playful place.
Mm.
I was a little scared in the beginning, but gradually people were nice. I was in this way back room and people would come down and ask me for a car crash or something. And
yeah.
But they were nice. And, I was isolated in the beginning, but slowly I realized it was kind of a fun place to work. I was lucky.
And then over that time, is that when you started to zero in specifically on the writing?
Well, there's another funny story to that. Andy had a nephew named Jim, whose nickname was the Count, because I don't think he came in till 5 p.m. We didn't think he had a shadow. So my first job was to be his assistant. Jim was very tall. I thought editing looked very interesting. I'd been in film school. He put trims on the ceiling. I mean, this is film. This is not, what we do now. Well, I had to get a ladder to get the trims out because that was my job. And he didn't start till 5. We got finished at midnight, but I had come in at 9:30. So after a week of that, I was exhausted and said, I think I have to do something else here.
Yeah.
Had I been with an editor like Benedict or one of the good Bill Cox, another person there, I would have probably been an editor today. But I had been an English major. I liked writing, and there were lots of opportunities to write. So I started writing. And they sold those scripts for a lot of money and paid us very little. So it was to their advantage to have anybody write. If I hit it, great. They're going to sell it for $6,000 and pay me 15. So yeah, I started writing.
What were some of those early films that you were working on?
Oh my God. I think Murder by Death might have been one. Sorry, I'm trying to think. I have to think about that.
That's all right.
I was there 17 years too, and probably worked on, 40 movies a year. So there's a lot. I'm trying to think of, I don't know. I mean, but it was pretty quick that I started to get a chance to be a writer and to watch the movies and hand in what I could think of.
And what was that process like? Was it similar to how it still goes in terms of the copy, or was there a different process just in terms of screening the movie, coming up with ideas, getting feedback from guys like Andy or Steve Panama or the editors? Like, what was that collaboration and process like?
Well, back in those days, people weren't so averse to copy. I think copy fell out of favor for a long time, and nobody wanted any. Certainly in radio, you need it. You can use dialect in the film, but you have to explain a lot in 30 seconds. So maybe that's where I started writing in radio. But I don't know if the process is different because I don't do it now.
Mm.
But, there were certain structures. Andy always said that a trailer is like a song. You have to have a beginning and a middle, and then the end, you want to promise something. You don't want to give too much away. There were things you knew, but my process was, I was a shotgun person. I wrote down every idea possible. And then I would go from there and start to cull to see what I liked. I mean, for example, the line for Jurassic Park, I wrote almost as a gag. I wasn't going to even hand it in. I mean, it just was sort of a funny, old-timey line. So, but I'm glad I handed it in because I liked it. You don't always know what they're going to like. So you can't write to the audience per se. You write to what you think makes sense.
Yeah. And you wrote for print as well as for trailers and TVs. You wrote for everything, right?
Well, Kaleidoscope was just audiovisual. If my line ended up on a poster, which it did quite a bit, that was because the print company or the studio said, put this on the poster.
Mm.
I didn't work for there was a print division at one point, BLT, that was downstairs, but I didn't work for them. That would be a studio's decision.
So an adventure 65 million years in the making, that's you?
Yes.
That's great. Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods is brought to you by Soundstripe. So if you're an editor, a producer, a creative exec, a music supervisor, or even a podcaster like me, if you're a content creator of all stripes, if you will, and you're looking for the perfect library of music and sound effects, check out Soundstripe. With over 10,000 high-quality tracks, including music from Grammy-winning artists, Soundstripe makes music licensing hassle-free. Believe me, I've tried it. I've been on there. I've navigated around. It was really terrific. It was really easy to use. So with a simple subscription, you get unlimited access to a vast catalog, downloadable stems for creative flexibility, and AI song editing to customize tracks effortlessly. Plus, their seamless integration with Premiere, which is what most of my editor friends are on, it means a smoother editing experience. If you're ready to level up your production game with properly licensed, high-quality music and sound effects, head over to soundstripe.com/trailergeeks and save 10% with code TRAILERGEEKS. That's soundstripe.com/trailergeeks and code TRAILERGEEKS. Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods is brought to you by the Golden Trailer Awards. For folks who are just starting to get plugged in, the GTAs is an unconventional ceremony that honors excellence in feature film trailers, teasers, and movie marketing. Or as some folks like to think of it, it's the award ceremony for the short attention span. We all just celebrated the 25th Golden Trailer Awards. So would that be the Silver Golden Trailer Awards? Either way, it was a terrific show. Monica and Evie do such a wonderful job putting it together. Tons of fun, so much awesome work across the board. And mostly it was just great to be together as a community. So keep an eye out for a number of exciting developments over the next year. Just make sure to stay plugged in at goldentrailer.com for a ton of exciting developments. That's goldentrailer.com. How did you develop was it just trial and error and you developed your own process, or?
Yeah, I guess so. I did a lot of improv. I mean, Andy, actually, one of the things Andy told me, and I thought it was a great lesson, is that, to keep producing things creatively, you also need to fill the tank. And that means seeing movies, seeing plays, exposing yourself to what's going on, listening to the rhythm of things. Back then, there was a paper called LA Weekly. And you could go see a play for like $12 or $10. A lot of them were terrible, but if anything, LA had a lot of good actors. So sometimes you saw something pretty decent for $12, and sometimes I'd walk out at intermission. But I tried to expose myself to as much as I could, because you're always giving one way isn't a way to nourish yourself and make yourself more, I don't know, open yourself up. I also think crossword puzzles helped a lot. And Larry and Andy and I always did it. Andy would, he'd get the New York Times and I'd copy it so I could do it. But our offices at that point were around the corner from each other. And he'd go, "Did you get 17 down?" And like, we'd be yelling back and forth. But crossword puzzles make you think in a different way, especially if there's a question mark at the end of it's like another way to think of something. And you're always trying to do that so you come up with something that no one's heard. You hope.
So you grew up in New York. Did you grow up in the city or?
Long Island.
Okay. And I guess you still had family back on the East Coast. How did you explain to your family? Did they understand what it was you did for a living?
No. Never. My mother never understood. And she calling me, we worked till 6:30 at least. And she'd call and she'd go, "Why are you still at work?" And I was like, "Oh my God, we worked till 9:30 to 6:30, Mom." And she's a smart woman, but she just didn't really get it. You have to say coming attractions, people get that.
Yeah.
Nobody knew what a trailer was. It's called a trailer because it used to happen at the end of the movie. Nobody knew that either. So, I mean, no, she didn't know at all.
And how hands-on was Andy, like just in terms of how you grew as a creative, how influential, how did he influence your work?
Well, a lot. I mean, he'd go through stuff and tell me what worked and what didn't, what things he liked and he didn't. And you'd go back. Andy had this amazing gift. He was so talented and confident that he enjoyed other people's success. He wanted you to be good. And you felt that. He would see something in you and you wanted to get better. And he wasn't threatened by someone else coming up with something better than he did. He thought that was great. And a lot of people don't have that kind of confidence or generosity. And I think that made me try harder and want to make them happy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we do, right?
Yeah. And then a lot of different versions I'm imagining on any given campaign. Do you have any favorite campaigns that you worked on during your time at Kaleidoscope?
I got to do featurettes, which were a lot of fun.
Okay.
So we went on location and he sent me out on location when I was 24. I didn't know what I was doing. Oh my God, I was so lost. But luckily there was this guy, Roger Bowen, who was doing the interviews. I don't know, I learned. You learn, because if you don't get it right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a funny story about Ryan O'Neal, but I don't know if you want to hear that. But
no, I do. Absolutely. That was my next
okay.
question. Not Ryan O'Neal per se, but it's got to be, a lot of us are still starstruck, at the end, we're in the business and we meet people, but at the end of the day, how did you learn how to handle yourself? Ryan O'Neal and whoever.
I didn't know at the time. I was on a featurette shoot for a movie called The Driver with Bruce Dern, Ryan O'Neal, and Isabella Gianni, who was the most beautiful woman anybody had ever seen. Not a great movie, but it was a Walter Hill movie. So we were doing a few days location. Most actors know, or directors, that this is to help the movie. We're not going to expose anything or any secrets. We're trying to promote their movie. And we'll make more money. Well, Ryan O'Neill made us wait till like 8 o'clock. So now everybody's on overtime. I've done a few of these by now, so I know that after 6, it's costing my company more money. And we decided, Jose, who is the cameraman, he decided that it would be cool if Ryan was like in the car looking back at us, like his arm on the thing. So the three of us, the sound guy, me, and Jose, are in the back seat. And he finally shows up at 8 o'clock. Now I know that when you do an interview, you can't ask a yes/no question because then you don't have an answer because we're going to cut me out. My question is not in the featurette; it's just the person speaking. So my second question was like, well, I don't think you're going to be able to say this, but well, what is your relationship with Isabella Gianni like? And he goes, well, I fuck her. And I feel Jose's from Argentina. He's very gallant. He's very I feel him stiffen.
Yeah.
We all sort of freak out. And I'm thinking, okay, this is it. Like, this is the second question. We've waited, 12 hours. So finally I went, well, and I'm like 25. Okay. I'm a kid. I go, well, I know you fucker. Isn't there anything else? And he was so surprised. He gave me a fabulous answer. I asked one more question. I said, thank you very much. We're done. And Andy was like, the next day, he was like, okay.
We got it. You got it, kid.
I don't know if you could use that, but I mean, I was
No,
terrified.
I get the explicit rating. I take pride in,
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was so mean to do that. And I was so young and we were all waiting so long. It was such a nasty thing. And I just was mad. Anyway, so I think from then on, they had no problem sending me out.
That seems like such a power play in a way. But Benny, did you have experiences like that where you were with, whether it was a star or a filmmaker or somebody that was basically, asserting their position like that?
There was only one who was Jackie Gleason.
Oh.
I had to go with Dave Gilbert, who was also a writer at Kaleidoscope. And I had cut the trailer for Smokey and the Bandit, and he was we had written the voiceover for him. And Andy said, "You're too young. You can't. You need to go there." But Dave will be the person dealing with Jackie because he's got this tremendous ego. And I went as a sound guy. I operated the Nagra. So and he was very vociferous and not pleasant and completely changed the script. And I actually kind of tricked him and said, I'm sorry, there was a little glitch. Can we do one more? So I got him to reread the script and he changed some of the words. So I was able to concoct between the two scripts. But besides that, all the other people that I met with Andy were very nice and very pleasant and very kind. And he was the only one I remember like, wow, what a dick. But he was known as a very difficult person.
Yeah, we share one filmmaker relationship where he did it all the time. But for the most part, all the stories I hear, guys that end up getting involved in the campaigns, filmmakers, actors, what have you, really know what they're doing. Very professional, very friendly, very approachable. You have to cater to their needs and their whatevers, but.
Corey, I just wanted to share one thing, and you can use whatever bits and pieces if you want. But I wanted to share one thing about Margie, because Margie's very humble, and she's not going to tell you what her contribution to our industry was. And it was gigantic, because in the 80s, trailers were not cut without narration. Trailers were driven with narration. It basically was kind of the framework of when you put a piece together. Maybe you had a bit of dialogue, and then the narration came in and basically told you the story. This is a story of this man or this and that. And Margie's copy was so great that it was, as an editor, you looked at the script and said, oh, great, I got my framework. I will work around this. Of course, when I got Jurassic Park and she handed me that copy, I was like, oh, wow, this is so cool. But she contributed to so many campaigns, from the Year of Living. I think that was your copy, the Year of Living Dangerously.
Might have been, yeah. I don't remember that one. Yeah.
Bobby Deerfield, Cruising, Witness. And they were all little gems. It was really interesting because also every narrator was a different flavor, from Tim McIntyre to Mark Elliott had a very different voice. And so we picked together who would read it. So she did have an essential role in what we did at Kaleidoscope, all the way through the 80s. I just started kind of using less narration later on, but it was always such an important part of, and I actually do miss that. A lot, even some people now say, they kind of miss voiceover in trailers because it was another part of the package.
So I just pulled up a couple of these. A love caught in the fire of revolution. That was, and then,
Great line. I didn't write that line, but that's
oh,
a
you
great
didn't write that one? Okay.
No.
And then Witness was a cop, a boy, a secret that could cost them both their lives.
Yeah.
I wrote that. I did write the line for Fatal Attraction.
Oh, okay.
Yes, wow.
Another writer who came later, this guy Matthew, said he had it on his wall. So it was very simple. But I remember, it's coming back to me now.
Love can be murder.
I think it was a night that, I don't know. I have to think of what the line was. 2 lines, but it was a mistake he would regret all his life.
He regrets forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, on the other side of Drinks.
What was
Drinks?
that Brooke Shields movie? I worked on a lot of movies. I mean, there were a lot. And
I mean,
I worked with other people,
Yeah, and Margie really was a really, really important part of Kaleidoscope. She was the one who gave us all that great copy to work with. As an editor, I love collaborating with Margie.
Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods is brought to you by 2496 Sound and Music. 2496 Sound and Music has been publishing music and sound design in Hollywood for over 2 decades. While most traditional libraries started with music first, 2496 started from the ground up, creating killer sound design elements for trailers and film campaigns. Then they started building a music catalog, which matches the sound design catalog perfectly, creating a powerful blend of sound, music, and emotion. Their founder, Lenny Jones, who's a pal of mine, really good guy, he is a motion picture and television sound editor with credits on top shows including Ancient Aliens and Unsolved Mysteries. 2496's sound design can be heard on current trailer campaigns, including many of the summer's box office hits. 2496's composers and sound designers hail from all over the globe, giving their clients not just 24/7 service, but an international style that will appeal to a global audience. They excel at rapid customizations and creative revisions, minimizing delays in your creative process. If you're looking for the sound of the next for your next trailer campaign, check out 2496 Sound and Music at 2496sfx.com. That's the numbers 2496 and SFX like sound effects. That's 2496sfx.com. Did you talk about that with Tim? Because the reason I ask about Tim is because I had a conversation with Tim about copy. Benny's partner from Trailer Park, Tim Nett. And this is well into the early 2000s. And he described copy at that point because it was the need for copy and the way copy was being used at that point was already evolving. But Tim described it very similarly to how you described it. I think the illustration he was using was more like paper mache. The copy ultimately is the balloon that ends up that holds it all together, but then ultimately gets taken out. You still see the structure of what copy provided as a platform for the editors and everybody else to build off of.
It was a very gentle and subtle guide to kind of weave you around the story, and I was always amazed how Margie and the other writers at Kaleidoscope came up with this stuff that was so helpful to us.
So Margie, go ahead.
I would say that it was scaffolding.
Scaffolding, interesting.
Because at least I was trying to tell the editor how I thought it could go. They might have a better way to make it work, or perhaps my way wouldn't work. But if the client picked that script, because they would pick one, they could drop lines, or they can always call me. And I love working with them. I would go in and say, "Oh, that line doesn't work, or it's too long or too short." I could work with them, which is always more interesting in a way because you're involved in it. It was hard when it became freelance. I moved because I never got to work with anybody. And I think that you both benefit. There's a synergy that happens. But I looked at it as if they dropped a line, it wasn't hurt. That was my vision. Now it's yours.
Mm.
So, although there was an editor who I liked a lot named Parker Andrews.
Oh, yeah.
he usually tossed my script and then had me come in when he cut everything, and I had to write it after the fact. So I had to fit it into 3 seconds, 2 seconds, a half. It was very challenging. So I wrote it after it was cut.
Oh, that's interesting. Wait,
Yeah, it was hard.
how does that? I don't get how that works. Like, how would that?
It's very hard.
That's interesting. Yeah, and then
But I
Parker
mean,
ended up
it was
staying
still
with.
the idea was there, but I just had to plug in the words I could. But
So,
anyway,
so you were there. You were at Kaleidoscope for 17 years.
yes, I was.
And did you go freelance after that, or were you staff?
Yeah, I no. What happened was I got married and I lost a big toss. Larry was supposed to move to L.A. and I ended up moving to D.C.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and by the way, Andy gave me as a present a big party, a wedding party, which was so lovely. I had invited whoever. I made a huge party for my wedding.
Oh, that's nice.
It was a lovely present, and we were very close. But it was hard. Then I was freelance. I worked for Kaleidoscope for a year, but you know, I did a little more than right. I produced all the radio. I dealt with the Disney clan because we got along really well. He was from Long Island too. This guy, Peter A.D., who was great.
I know Peter. Yeah, he's been on the show actually.
Yeah. So I was his go-to for a while. There were some editors that people were a little afraid of, and they threw me in to work with them because I was less threatening, I guess. So I did a lot of things that maybe you wouldn't notice or they wouldn't necessarily get billed. But when you're not there, those things don't get done. So they did hire another writer and said, you can't be on staff because I wasn't there.
Yeah.
So then I went freelance for a year and I liked it. And then my boss at the time, Steve, asked me to come back. And I said, no, now I have clients and you could fire me again. And now I'm working for, lots of other companies because Andy's company, as I think Benedict said, so many of us went on to, or not me, but Benedict certainly, and Tom and Greg, they all went on to have their own companies, Mark Chugman. So those were my friends. Those are my colleagues and peers, and they would hire me because I think I knew how they thought, and to make work with them was easy.
Yeah.
We worked together for years, so it was very easy. And then I didn't want to be with one company at that point.
Yeah, you had a diversified portfolio.
I did. And in fact, what happened with Jurassic Park was I happened to go to Kaleidoscope. I think I was going to work on a product reel or something, but I was there in January and they had a rough cut of the movie. It was amazing. Because a lot of things they couldn't send me. They just wouldn't.
Yeah.
So I got to see it. And I went, oh my God, he made dinosaurs. It's incredible. Because it wasn't finished, but what I saw was extraordinary. So then I ended up working on that. But that was just a fluke that I was there that week when they had that movie.
Yeah. They were already so security conscious, going back. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it sounds like you stayed in touch with Andy after you left Kaleidoscope.
Oh, yeah. I mean, whenever I came out, I'd see him. I would say there were a lot more clients I was working for. That Kaleidoscope was also a client, but I worked for a lot of other people by then. So I would visit whoever I could when I came out. I became a mom. I couldn't come out all the time. I mean, I think had I been able to come to LA every week, I could keep my job, but I just couldn't do that.
Yeah.
It was not possible. So, and then I worked for a documentary filmmaker in DC that was very interesting for a while. Didn't pay well, but amazing movies. And then I retired.
Yeah. And there's also some cable, like Nat Geo is based there, and a couple of.
Yeah, I think there's something else that's too. I forget. But you know what? By the time unfortunately, when the internet and CD and perfect quality film was transmittable, that was the end for me because people would send me horrible video tapes of things and the quality was terrible. Nobody would want that. And then the CDs got pretty perfect. And then there was too much security involved and no one could send me anything. So I'd have to come out to see every single movie, which wasn't practical.
Yeah. So we were talking before we hit record that Andy's been gone a little over 20 years.
Is it that long, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
What do you miss about him?
Oh God, I miss his laugh. I miss him being next door. I miss the connection we had. He was a very creative and encouraging person. And I just think that's very special. I was very lucky to be connected to somebody like that and have somebody nurture me and want me to succeed.
Yeah.
he mentored me.
Yeah.
So I don't have that now.
And
Figured it out on my own.
you mentioned so many of the people who came out of Kaleidoscope that went on to start their own companies and work for other companies. But when you think about Andy's impact on the industry as a whole, you worked with a lot of these folks when you were freelancing. How do you see his impact on the next iteration of the trailer industry going into the 90s and 2000s?
It's a good question. Well, he certainly was a model for a boss that was fun to work for, and a lot of people were not.
Yeah.
A lot of people at the studio were not. I mean, there were a lot of very tough people. And I think he was a role model for how to get good work out of people, for one thing.
Yeah.
Um, I think he really had a great eye for what was good. I don't know how you can impart that particularly. He just had those qualities. But I think people modeled themselves after him, possibly. I don't know. I didn't work for those people on staff, so I don't have that relationship. He was my only boss, in other words.
Yeah.
But then it was on my own.
I got to see it, and I've spoken with people at virtually every company. And what I saw is you mentioned Parker, and Parker worked for Mike Greenfeld when he started Ant Farm with Barbara.
Right.
And I saw this too. I think at the time, Trailer Park and Ant Farm, when I was first coming into the industry, Trailer Park and Ant Farm were arguably the biggest and the best at the industry. Kaleidoscope, was still around, but
Yeah.
But one of the biggest differences is the way that Tim and Benny modeled what you're talking about in terms of Andy's management style, leadership style. Same thing with Mike and Barbara. The way, Bar- Barbara, I told the story before, but Barbara basically, it's really simple, Koa. No screamers. No assholes. No screamers.
Right. Exactly right.
So
There are very few people I work for that I didn't like. There was one, and just one. But I loved working with my clients, and they were terrific. And if I didn't get it right, I'd redo it for them. I mean, I was so lucky. But I think a lot of the people at Kaleidoscope, I don't know if we were just all lucky, but they were great people. They just were. And, there was Benedict, and then there was, Mark Trugman went off for another company. And like you say, Mike, and I think Paul Rollins started a company.
Yeah, he was running BLT's AV division for many years. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was a sweetheart. He was a great guy. All the people that they were just good people, and they treated people well, and you get better. I believe you get better results from support than disparagement.
Yeah, for sure. So Benny, now you get to ask some questions. What do you want to ask Margie?
Well, I think she kind of answered it a little bit, the question a little earlier, but I'm going to ask it again because I was always amazed, Margie, at the copy that you came up with. And I was always thinking, how do you do that? How do you watch a movie and then what do? You just kind of, and you kind of answered it. You kind of throw everything out and try this and try that. Cause with editing, it was kind of like a puzzle. You put pieces together, but with writing, you're looking at a blank piece of paper. What was your process? How did you come up with this copy?
That's a really good question. We had this whole discussion about creativity recently because I do another kind of art now, and I think I struggled a lot, frankly. I think some things were really easy and they just popped into my head and I was so lucky. And other times it was hard. And I knew I had to be good. So I didn't want to hand it in till it was decent. And I think there were beginning, middles, and ends, sort of like what Andy said. And I would just write stuff and I go, oh, that works as an opening. That works here. And then I'd start another page and I'd winnow, till you figure out what to wear, go to the party.
So you wrote a bunch of stuff and
I wrote a lot of stuff. And then, but I felt like it was the best way to do it was to not censor myself. Even if it seems stupid, write it down. Doesn't matter.
And you kind of answered the biggest question because you said that you kind of threw it in as just, you thought it was the Jurassic Park line was like, we were probably not even going to submit it.
No, I mean, a lot of things I wrote like that. Not a lot, but there were occasionally things that I just went, okay, I'm just doing this. it's kind of fun. We'll see what happens with it. And I figured it'd be a bigger mistake not to hand it in. And I wasn't afraid of if somebody said, this is really dumb, which somebody we work for would say, and he'd go, this is, throw it back and I get a paper cut on the way back, But I felt like I would rather take the risk of having somebody not like it than worry about it and not hand it in. I don't have anything to lose. I had my job. I didn't think I was going to get fired for a bad line. Why not hand it in? Take the
And
chance.
that was one thing, Corey, about Andy, is that he made you feel that way. That there was no good or bad. It was just he encouraged you to try and say, show it to me. Maybe it's a good line. And he championed us, he encouraged us to explore artistically. And it's funny because all the different interviews we've done with different people, everybody is saying the same thing.
Yeah.
That was his greatest asset. His greatest asset was he encouraged us and he championed us.
That's great.
He wouldn't be afraid to say, wow, this is great.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, wow, then you were riding on air for a week. I mean, it was, sometimes you hit it, sometimes you didn't. I mean, like I said, some things are easy and some are not, but you just keep going and you know that it'll come eventually. Something will come.
So, Margie, do you have any questions for Benny?
Yes. So what was your first big campaign, Benedict? Benedict, by the way, unbelievable, wonderful editor. He did play volleyball in my office a lot. It was a game called Badamaggi. It was an Italian game that was very distracting with our friend Tom. But anyway, what was your first big campaign, Benedict? Because I know maybe it was Top Gun, but I can't remember back because there were a lot of
the first trailer was Smokey and the Bandit, where I go to Florida to record Jackie Gleason. But I think my breakthrough where kind of things really changed was Top Gun. I mean, that was kind of the piece that kind of put me on the map and gave me confidence and got me kind of noticed by Andy and Steve, but also by Bruckheimer and Tony Scott, and kind of started it all.
Right.
And
that was early on, right? That was
1985.
And when did you start working there?
77.
Yeah.
So, I had trailers before. I mean, An Officer and Gentleman was before that. I had taken over Empire Strikes Back for Jim Doherty, who had kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
There were pieces, along the way. I kind of slowly, I think as many people there, kind of, assisted Tom Kennedy and Jan and kind of, cut spots. And then, but yeah, I think you're right. I think Top Gun was kind of the Purple Rain, Top Gun, Beverly Hills Cop were the turning point for me.
Oh, those are great. I mean, yeah, I remember that. But there were so many good things coming out, but I do remember that was sort of a calling card right there.
We had that was the one thing about Steve and Andy, I have to say. They got us so many great movies to work on. They did. Unbelievable.
They did. Yeah, it was just also a fun place to work. There was just, I don't know, it felt like the Dick Van Dyke Show. I felt like Rosemary, like just people were, there was a great sense of humor. A lot of people were funny and a lot of people were fun. So I was really lucky, I thought. I think we all were lucky.
Do you remember, Margie, when we were in Steve Panama's office and he was berating a client? He was just yelling at them and insulting them. And you and I walked out and said, how does he get away with this? How can he do this?
I know, he's so tough. So there's one other story. I know you spoke to Greg, and I actually asked him if he told this, but even if you don't use it, it's really funny. A lot of us were in the screening room. I don't remember what we were watching. Andy always had this thing that we were so lucky because he let us use all the equipment and stock. If we wanted to be filmmakers, it was all there for us to do. And in the meantime, a lot of us recorded lines and we were never paid. And they used the lines. Sometimes they went to finish. I did Streisand for something and that was efficient. Anyway, we never got paid. So Greg says, Debbie Lester says, well, wait a minute, I just did all this. How come I don't go paid? And then Andy goes into this whole thing again about how we're so lucky and we're getting all this experience and we can become filmmakers here. And he takes a breath and Greg goes, you're right. And I'm so glad my parents could afford to send me here. And Andy paused and then cracked up, which was a testament to him because he knew when somebody aced him, we all just fell over. It was great.
That's great.
But we were lucky to work there.
One last question, and that is, I know I asked your favorite campaigns that you worked on, but just because everybody that I know that's in this industry loves the art of making trailers, and just knows a good trailer when they see it, knows a good campaign when they see it. What are some of your favorite campaigns, whether you worked on them or not? What are some of your favorite campaigns of all time?
Well, the stuff I worked on that I liked, I'm trying to think. Actually, Big Top Pee-wee was fun. It was all copy. Same thing with Little Shop of Horrors, because they wanted a lot of copy in it. Cruising was really interesting. I like variety, so that was really fun. I'm trying to think of some other ones that I did that I liked. Eyes of Laura Mars, we did a featurette. I really liked that. I liked interesting movies, too, that weren't necessarily the big blockbusters. But we did, my lines is on Indiana Jones, the second one, and that was very lucky.
Margie, that was your line. If adventure has a name, it must be Indiana Jones. That's a brilliant line.
And everybody asked for it again. I said, I don't really know how to do that again. But anyway, the best line I think I ever wrote, though, was for a movie actually with Jackie Gleason called Nothing in Common.
Oh, with Tom Hanks.
Yes. And it was a very tricky movie because there's two comedians in it. But it's a father-son with an adversarial relationship. And but they're comedians. So what is an audience going to think when they see this cast? So it was for TriStar, I think. And I was thinking, how do we do this? Because Jackie Gleason has cancer. So not only are they not getting along, he's dying. So the line I came up with, and they put it on the poster, was, it's a comedy and a drama, just like life. And people were always asking me to write that again. And I said, I can't. That's it.
Yeah.
But I was right. There are a few lines that would be my T-shirt.
Yeah. And that's that movie. If you remember that's that movie. I was thinking it's a really touching movie. There's something bittersweet about that.
Yeah, it's most movies, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, those kind of movies.
That's good.
Yeah.
Just like life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Margie, this has been great. It's been great getting to know you a little bit better. I certainly hope we get to do this in person. If I'm in DC or vice versa, I'd love to sit down with you. But I really appreciate you doing this. It's really nice to be able to remember
pleasure.
Andy. And
look, you know what? It's fun to do it with Benedict. That was even better. It was a nice surprise.
Yeah.
And I can't really say enough good things about Andy. It's one of those lucky things for all of us that we had him in our lives. And I do miss him.
For sure.
Yeah.
And thanks, Benny. This is great. I've said it before, but I'll say it again, man. This has been such a treat, such a gift having you. And what a great idea. So thanks for doing this, man. Good to see you again.
My pleasure. Absolutely. It's so great to see you, Margie.
You too, Benny. Okay. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening. As always, please rate us and review us wherever you get your podcasts. It really does help us in the rankings so more folks can learn about these great stories, how the modern trailer industry started, and some of the stories behind some of the greatest trailers of all time. It really does. It's really wonderful to hear some folks and how so many folks have engaged in the conversation and learned about our industry and learned about some of these great campaigns. Follow us on all the socials. I'm really easy to find. I'm at Corey S. Nathan, at Corey, S as in Sam, Nathan. That's at Corey S. Nathan. And check out our awesome sponsors, 2496 Sound and Music Design, the Golden Trailer Awards, and Soundstripe. Really grateful to all those folks for helping us keep the lights on. Thank you for joining us. Now go do some inspired work.